episode 39 of the Bmoney Beastin podcast. This one's actually special. To my left or right, depending on what you're looking at, I would say to my right, Quantal Langford, my partner, and together we created Matt Clash. And dude, I think this is really cool that we can get on here and just kind of talk about, start to finish, because we've been connected for a long time now, like working on this thing. But I also think that you have such an extraordinary story, and you do so much with the homeless and giving back to the community. And man, you just got a lot of cool things that you do that helps people. And I just think that that's a story that needs to be told too. So I think we need to start there and just kind of tell us your background, which of course I know most of it, but this is for everybody else. Let's hear your background. I know you're from Cleveland, how you got the UTC, even throw out, you won the U.S. Open a couple years ago. That was pretty cool.
We can throw out some little things like that. That's definitely. We can talk about that. Man. I guess origin story. I'm originally from Cleveland, Tennessee boy, born and raised, and went to Cleveland High, and did well there. Nothing like it is now. Not the dynasty that it is now. But we perennially had a really good team, and it's always had a long history of people just down the line. On my family side, pretty much most of my family members, wrestled at Cleveland. A lot of them either won state or placed in state. So it was I think for me it was that I think that's I always have that sort of pressure on me, and did well. Got state finalists my senior year. Pretty much lost to my best friend in college, and so we both of us end up attending UT-Chattanooga and won a conference team title there. Went to the NCAA's and competed there. So it's actually sort of cool. I do tell a lot of people I'm sort of I always wish that I could go back and sort of win that state title, but at the same time too, that's probably the best thing that probably could have happened to me, because I think that was I think personally for me the start for a lot of the things that the way that I do things. I guess just I don't know, I don't know if it's an obsession or just hunger of just wanting to prove myself. I with that end up graduating from UT-Chattanooga in 2003. I almost forget now. I had the opportunity to train at least 1 year under Coach Brands. Had 3 different coaches within that 5-year time span, which you get different philosophies and different mindsets. So it's sort of weird having a mesh of all those different coaches. But had a year with Coach Brands, which was that was very interesting.
So I've heard.
Yeah. So after that, I was really wasn't doing too much. I mean, I was still training and working out, but I'd gotten a degree in graphic design and branding. So when we talk about Matt Clash, all this stuff is a full circle. So everything's sort of connected. But got a degree in graphic design and graphic design and ended up going almost like the freelance route and doing a lot of freelance work and building up clients like that, and eventually just ended up starting my own thing. So the first little hatched project of mine was Langford Design, and something I still continue to run even now. And there's different things that I'm expanding into, and obviously including Matt Clash. But found myself sort of running a business, didn't know how to do it. Pretty much learned through hard knocks. So anyone that's wanting to get into the want to start your own thing, it's tough, especially in the creative field. It can be tough, getting clients and, doing customer service and, maybe getting, in too deep with certain things at times. And, you go for something fails. I've had a lot of failures. And at the same time too, had a lot of great opportunities to do different things. And, yeah, after that, sort of hatched a little side brand of mine called Just Heart Apparel, and yeah, working. I work with different sports teams and fighters and things of that sorts. But all those have been sort of just extensions of normal of what I'm always doing. So I get out 2014. I get out here to California on the West Coast and pretty much really starting over from scratch. I mean, I still got my clients and people that I have connections with, but I didn't know anyone out here, and so that was actually one of the main reasons I actually started my podcast, and was to reach out and connect with people, and it's grown since then. So yeah, now hitting 230 something episodes now, but that was just one of those to where it was sort of a way for me to be able to connect, and I think I've always sort of been like that, just figuring out ways of being resourceful when I may not have anything available. I think I've always been like that, and just finding different creative ways of connecting with people and communicating. I told myself that I was never going to coach again. I coached a couple of years with Campbellsville University, and actually helped out with Walker Valley for about a year. And so when I got out here, I told myself I didn't really even plan on coaching or anything. I was actually wanted to train more, and but I did, the coaching bug is still in me. I found myself out here coaching a gym out here, and it just goes from there. I end up getting in contact with Coach Box out here at Palomar College, and end up now helping with him with the men's and women's team, and sort of guiding them and sort of building that program up, and as well as doing a lot of other clinics and other things that I do out here with the arts or volunteering. And so it's just one of those where all this stuff is just really just the extension of what I love to do. And so yeah, that's where we're at right now. But even on the competition side, still competing. I still got that sort of competitive bug in me. But I think for me, it's just ways of sort of testing myself out. So that's probably something I do recommend for anyone. Like, I told myself, like, I wanted to, even this year, I wanted to learn something new, and I want to compete every year following this. I want to at least compete in one thing, just to test myself out. Nothing about winning or losing, but just wanting to sort of see where I'm at. And I think I think that's healthy. I think that's fun. And I think it sort of sees where you're at. Sometimes we get sort of stale, or we get, sort of used to our routine, and maybe we're just not looking forward to anything. Like, try something new, do something new, something that scares you. I don't care what it is, but figure out ways of improving yourself every year. So that's just those are things that I'm always fascinated by, or always sort of, I think for me, always practicing or learning and attempting to do, and doing that so I can help out, the younger generation, and the younger fighters and wrestlers that always, I guess, look up to me for guidance.
Do you plan to wrestle this year again in the U.S. Open?
Yes, yeah. I was actually gonna do it last year, but I ended up having a injury, and I actually had like a nerve compression, like in my shoulder, and it really painful, and that pretty much knocked me out from competing. But yeah, I do plan on competing this year, so I've been very, very blessed that I've been healthy. So starting to get in a sort of competition phase right now, and starting to up my training and everything. Dial in the nutrition.
Too, right?
Huh?
Matt's going out there this year.
Oh, really? Man, he's probably gonna go out there and take everyone. It'll be fun.
Dude, I seen him last Sunday, and we were talking about you, right? And Bryson went and helped coach with the Ringgold Youth Club and helped the youth guys for a day, out there coaching them and stuff.
Yeah.
And we were hanging out. Of course, we gravitate. Pitts is our guy. All of our guys. He's our guy. And we're sitting there for like an hour or whatever. We ended up talking about you and how you won the U.S. Open. And I told him how I was watching the live stream. And I told him about that blast double in that last match. I was like, dude, and then I thought about it. I was like, it looked just like the feet to back card in our game. Like if you go back and watch it, the lift, and I was talking to him about it. He's like, dude, I know, man. He goes, I seen that. That was cool. He goes, I'm going to do that this year. I said, really? He said, yeah. He goes, I made a deal with Dylan Villers that if we won a team state championship, and I thought there was no way it was going to happen. Remember last year, McCauley won state, and he said, I'll go do it. Well, then as soon as the season was over, they're like, you're going to go, right? He goes, I'll do it next year. It's like 2 weeks away or something, 3 weeks. He said, I'll do it next year. So he told me, he said, yeah, I'm already starting to wrestle a little more now. He goes, yeah, I'm going to go. So that'll be interesting. I'll have a couple of you guys I can keep track of while that's going on.
Yeah. It'll be fun. Like once, especially because I know my boy Helm, that's Coach Cutter on this card. He went the year that I won it, 2023, and he loved it. I think the biggest thing with him, like he was sort of scared, like he didn't know what was, how it was set up, or just how other people might have been training. So I think that's really the funnest thing is like. How your style sort of relates to other people, like people actually been training, or if they've been in shape, or just they got the oxygen ventilator on, which happened a lot. But it was fun to see. It was like once you get used to it, like, man, I want to do this again. So the previous year, 2022, actually, I got third. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to come back. That year, the year that I won it, I sort of knew the pace of the tournament, like how things was set up. So it was a little bit more comfortable for me. So I knew, I knew as far as like how I need to, train, cut the weight, get my nutrition dialed in. So I had that little, comfortable atmosphere. I mean, personally for me. So I think for me, that's generally when I wrestle best, is when I'm sort of relaxed and, I'm just wrestling. But so it'll be fun. It's actually at a new venue this year, and but it'll still be fun. It's always cool, sort of meeting all the other people. A lot, obviously different age groups, but a lot of people still training and wrestling. I mean, even out here, there's a lot of adult wrestling clubs popping up. So people are staying with it. You don't have to necessarily be competitive or anything, but I think with wrestling, and it's something that I definitely preach with my Palomar and compound kids, is that this is for life. This is something that even if you're coaching or if you're just training or working out, like this is all a lifestyle. It's not anything that you separate from and then that's it. That's like, this is who you are. So treat it as such. Treat it like practice. Use the things that you've learned in wrestling. Use it for life. So I think a lot of people are figuring out ways of staying in wrestling now, and I think for them, just having that camaraderie, having that little community and that village they know they can come in and train with, and everyone's dealing with they got their own things with life, and I think this is just a healthy way of really letting go that steam, or if you've just always been a fan of wrestling, like this is a way of staying in it, like going there and like keep going around. There'll be a time where your body says stop. Right now it hasn't been it. I've been very fortunate that I've been really healthy to be able to roll around with kids that's probably twice as young as me, and be able to roll around, teach them stuff and train, and even with my wife helping me out with a lot of things, therapy wise, body wise. I've been really really blessed to be able to still do this.
When you were talking about find adult wrestling clubs, that's not really a thing out here, right? You would know that. I haven't seen an adult wrestling club like on our end, but I will say this: I ran into Grant Lundy. You remember him? He wrestled at Cleveland.
Yeah.
Great guy. We were at a jiu-jitsu class at Militia like maybe 2 weeks ago, and he seen me out there, and he kind of waved at me, and he was talking to Bryson or whatever. And I was like, dude, what are you doing here? He's like, man, I can't let it go. He's like, He
It's
said, I can't
hard.
let it go, bro. And he was out there, it's the same thing with I remember when Cody was still here at Minion, right? Sean runs it now. Cody took that job at Hofstra last year. But when Cody was here, he would come into practice, and I didn't know that's where it was, but he was going into militia and beating up, soccer dads, right? And then he'd come coach wrestling. And I seen him one day in the hallway, and he's sitting there, and he's like, he had walked in drenched in sweat, right? And I was like, dude, what are you doing? He goes, I do this jujitsu class. And then his girlfriend's like, yeah, he goes beats up middle-aged old men. And I was like, what? So it's like something. And I can even relate this right now with Bryson. He took about a month and a half, right? And he's got over his spell. And starting last Tuesday, he's walked back in, right? He's like, okay, I got something to work towards. And then today, he went and had a good day. And we've been going to the gym in the morning. We go wrestle at night. You have a very much at times a love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of buddies that. Greg Hopkins is one of my good buddies. We grew up together, and he was a year ahead of me in school. He was a 3-timer at Ringgold years ago, right? And he told me, he said, dude, when I was in the 4th grade, he said, I remember telling my dad to shove something up his ass, and I'm not ever doing this again. And he said, I threw my headgear at the top of the gym, where it goes the little walkway. He said, I slung it up there, and I was ripping my singlet down to my ankles. And I'm like, I'm never doing this again. And he said, he goes, I didn't wrestle for a year. And then I went back in 6th grade for middle school, and I kind of got beat up. And then by the time I was in 8th grade, I was beating everybody. And then I went to high school, and I went I think he went 3-2. He ended up placing 5th as a freshman or something like that. And he remembered watching the intros, right, where they announced the finalists, for the state tournament. He's like, I'm never missing that again. And then that's what locked him in for it, right? And I think there's certain different aspects that get guys locked in, right? Something happens in different ways that locks guys in. But I think, like you said, you never get very far away from it.
Yeah, I think for anyone, even for the ones that's not even competing, they're coaching. Yeah. There's not too many of them that I know that's hey, I'm just maybe something, and it happens. Sometimes you just have a horrible experience. Something happened, bad coach, bad environment, and you want to get away from it completely. But honestly, I see a lot of them still going back to coaching because they don't want to put they want to give a better experience than they had, especially with the younger kids. So yeah, it's one of those where it never gets out of you. It's just part of those, one of those things where, especially with wrestling, it's a definitely a combative sport, but it also reveals so much about you, and I think that's what pulls a lot of people in and sucks them in and keeps them, because it exposes you. It exposes you to your flaws and maybe to your greatness too. And so I think that's the thing that I honestly think that's the thing that sort of keeps people sort of in it. I know for me, I see it now as more of, especially with me being in creativity, I sort of see wrestling more as a, just another creative outlet now. And I think for me, that actually helps me to open up. When I used to, I'd be sort of, closed, maybe nervous or anxious about certain things. Now I sort of see it all, it's all an art form. So that's how I try to coach it, as more of a way of, more of a philosophical aspect with wrestling more than technique. I told a lot of them, hey, look, there's a lot of coaches that's better than me. I was like, I'll direct them. I'll be the first one to be like, hey, you need to go down there and this, you need to work with him, or go to this coach or go to this coach. But the way that I connect with people is in a different way entirely. That still connects with wrestling, but I'm also sharing other little things that that they need to hear. So I think for a lot of them, it's easy. Not say it's easy, but just showing technique and showing people wrestling moves. That's that's the base level. But when you start to get kids to buy in, or you see them changing as a person, that's something that when you see these kids come back and they text their coach and see how they're doing. Even with me, I still I still call my coach from 20 years ago, my high school coach. He actually helped coach me my first year when I was at the U.S. Open. He was in my corner. So it's one of those where like when you start to create those little relationships and they come back to you and they still see you as a mentor, that's when you know you've won. When they can come back and be like, hey, I'm glad you talked to me while I was in college, or I'm glad you talked to me while I was in high school, or maybe we had a practice and I wasn't feeling the best and you talked to me. They remember that stuff. Yeah, they do remember the championships and wins and losses and stuff like that, or bad losses, but those little moments in time where it's just you and them, those are the things, those are the moments that they remember.
Dude, you couldn't have said it better. Like, I'll say this: every kid I've seen, over the years, like, they all, granted, I've mainly been around youth kids, middle school aged, but even, as we're getting into this high school age, I'm starting to see it too. If you love on a kid, you're just there for them, take care of them, listen to them, be there for them.
Yeah.
Dude, they'll run through a wall for you.
Yep.
But
they have to see that you care. If they don't, they'll rebel. They won't, you tell them, hey, do these 50 push-ups. They won't do it. They'll laugh at you. They have to see that you care.
And that's one thing that for life, man, Matt Pitts told me this years ago. Ollie Webb and Bryson, when they see each other, they're always glad to see each other, right? Ollie's like, 3 or 4 years older than him. But, when they were little, Ollie was a 6th grader and Bryson was like a 2nd grader. But they were the same size because, Ollie was so small for like the longest time. He was like 60 pounds in like 8th grade or whatever, 7th grade or whatever it was. And Matt told me a long time ago, he said, dude, they're going to be friends the rest of their life. Anytime they ever see each other, they're just going to have this bond. But he never mentioned how, like, the other day, it was so good to see Matt, right? Mm-hmm. We hadn't seen him in several months. Now, we text pretty regular, right? Like, what's up? What's going on? How's it going? Whatever. But we hadn't seen each other in several months. And, dude, for the years that we spent down there at Grindhouse with him, myself and Matt and Bryson and Matt will have like a lifelong kind of bond in some kind of way, right? And I think that those relationships, and hell, like we have a relationship with Boskin and, with, Villers and like all these people that we've met in the past decade that we just have these bonds with that will last forever. Whether we don't see them for 5 years or 5 days, when we see them, it's going to be like, man, what's up, dude? Do you remember this? And this good. And I think it brings out the good, right? Like, yeah, you do remember bad losses or whatever, right? But, in general, it's going to bring back all the good things that happened during those times, I believe. Like, to the end of time, I'll never forget when Bryson won U-State and Matt was coaching him and he ran up and jumped on him, right? Like, that's a big moment in his life. Mm-hmm. And you can never take it away from him. And it was a big moment for Matt because, like, year after year, for like 3 years there, he got so close and never got one, like so close. So it was like together they did that. And I just feel like when you can form that bond, and this goes for anything, not just wrestling, it goes for anything in life. If you form that bond with someone where you genuinely care about who they are, what they're going through, you can hear them out, and you actually care about them as a human being, like I said, they'll run through a wall for you. And I think that's great that, and you do that, man, because I watch and, like I love the Palomar thing because I talked to Arson, who's running New Way, right?
Yeah.
And apparently he lives not far from you out there in California. And he was telling me, and we kind of talked about how the junior colleges have like a state tournament and all these things. And he was telling me about a different one. I forget what it was, and I've always kind of kept up with the whole what you're doing out there. And dude, you got this natural, organic following of people. Anytime anybody asks me about Bmoney Beastin, I always bring you up. If you look at the paperwork, it has my name and your name on it. Like it's us. So I always bring you up, and they're like, "Oh, I know that dude." Well, of course you do. Like everybody knows you got this organic following because it's like this funnel of positivity. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You got like this funnel of positivity. And dude, it's an amazing thing that you give to the world. And I love seeing when you're out helping the homeless and things like that. Like a couple years ago, you know, like we had this plan, and then of course it had this snow blizzard and it just wasn't going to happen. But like for Christmas, we were going to make sandwiches and go downtown, right? And like hand out sandwiches and water. And I think maybe this spring we'll do something like that so we can avoid the snow.
Yeah.
But like when you're really giving back, and you do that a lot, man, like, and I try to, you know, like, and I think when you have a lot of people that are trying to give back to other people, even regardless in what way, I think that makes the world a better place. I do want to say this though. Let's kind of twist into how this card game came out of our brains, because I think it's the most unique thing that I don't think we ever would have existed, right? And I guess we need to start like how we hooked up in the beginning, because I knew you, I just wasn't familiar with you. And this is like 4 years ago now, right?
Probably about 3. Yeah, probably 4 years. Yeah, probably, I'm gonna say about 3 years.
Yeah, maybe a little over 3. Yeah, and and I'm going to tell my side, and then I'll bring where I brought you in, and then we'll kind of tell you how we put it together. Because this is the first time anybody's ever seen the two of us talk about it. And I think that's, you know, a unique, because I have my aspect of what I did and you have your aspect of what you did. And I just think it'll be cool to mesh that.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before. You know, I was a football guy. I got out of high school, worked in the cable industry for years and years. And I got involved in an e-learning company in 2014. And in 2020, 21, 20, I think 20, maybe, I don't know. 20 or 21, we really hit it big, right? So I started reaping the benefits of that. And nobody taught Jesse about anything to do with taxes, okay? So let's just say that first. And I go in to file my taxes. And I get this big tax bill from Uncle Sam that says, you owe us this amount of money. And I'm thinking, what? What are you going to do with that money? Like, I can use that money. What are we doing with this money? And so the origination here, my CPA looks at me and says, you need an LLC. And I said, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, the only thing I know how to do is like calculate radio frequency and like climb poles. Like, what do I do? And she looks at me, and this is how I got to you. This is literally the conversation that led me to you. I don't even know if I ever told you this. She goes, what do you do in your spare time? I said, well, I have a son that I take all over God's green earth to wrestle. And she says, what can you do with that? And I was like, I have no idea. And she says, well, just think about it. And I said, so if I started an LLC, and I was asking questions like, you know, this is in like January, February that year, and I was doing taxes. So I guess I started it like later at the end of the year, right? Because I wasn't sure what I was doing. And the original idea was we wanted to be like a champion brand, like, but kind of geared towards athletes, I guess. And I realized within a few months, I don't like this at all. Like, I don't like it. Like, I liked printing stuff. I like being a little creative, but I wasn't into it. And then the shoe idea came around, and that was Bryson's idea. But I got a hold of you through Matt Pitts to do the original logos for Bmoney Beastin, which, you know, is this one. It should just pop on the corner right there. See it up in the corner.
Yeah.
And originally it just said Bmoney Beastin Athletics. And I loved it, dude. And I was like, man, this guy's good. And I knew stuff you did because you actually did the Michigan singlet that Bryson got for Christmas one year.
Yeah, on the side note, I do a lot of wrestling stuff. So probably a lot of the things that you've seen wrestling wise, I've probably designed. Any of the things for you know, I work with Tyrant Wrestling, the logos, all the tournament graphics, flyers. I do a lot of the cover designs for Win Magazine. So, I mean, I do a lot of stuff for Cleveland, Walker Valley. So a lot of those singlets that they come out with, I'm usually, you know, designing a lot of those. So yeah, it's I do a lot of stuff within wrestling.
Well, the first time I heard of you ever was about 2 years before this. All right, about 2 years before this, I asked Pitts. Bryson had this love affair with Adam Coon. You remember Adam Coon that wrestled at Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, Adam Coon's a heavyweight, and Bryson was like a 55-pound kid. And it didn't really make much sense to me, but he just thought he was the greatest thing that ever lived in his little 8-9-year-old mind. That was the dude. And I asked Matt, I said, dude, this was around October. Like, I guess it was like right before like Halloween. I said, dude, Bryson wants a Michigan singlet like this one and I want to get him one for Christmas. And it was like the back with the V and the M, it was like blue with the yellow V. And that was the first time ever that anything was printed with the term Bmoney Beastin. And it was on the back of the pant, the left leg at the back. And it was like in this cursive. And once I got it, I kept asking for it. I was like, dude, like after a month, I was like, is it going to be here for Christmas? Yeah, man, I'll have it. And this is before I knew anything about these gear packages and how long things take and whatever. Now I know, right? And I said, where did you get this? And he told me, because it had the Just Heart logo on it, right? And he told me, and I was like, okay. So, and he told me about you. He's like, yeah, man, when we wrestled together, and he'd be like in the back of the van, like sketching, like wherever we're going. And that was the first time I ever heard of you. Well, when I decided to try to do this Bmoney Beastin thing, the first person I reached out to was Matt. And I was like, dude, because I knew he did a little design stuff too. And he immediately said, text Quantal. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then it clicked with me, right? And I was like, hey, dude, can you make me logos for this? And it was like a couple weeks later, we had this. And then we did, our several ventures. And then somewhere along the way there, around the Wave 2 shoe, we put out those gold ones and they did okay. And then we did the black ones and they did all right. And now we got these white ones that are pretty cool. But somewhere around that Wave 2 shoes, when you told me, you said, dude, we need a mascot. Because that's where we partnered up, was like around the Wave 2 shoe.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, we need a mascot. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know what the hell to think. And on my end, you sent me the MB video of drawing MB, which anybody that has seen us long enough, MB is the green-haired, our main guy. His face is on everything. I was on my way for Bryson to have elbow surgery where he broke his arm in freestyle practice. Do you remember that?
Yeah. And
we were literally on our way to the atrium down there in Chattanooga, the hospital, to get his elbow repaired. And I pulled over I got this text and I seen the video and it shot and I was like, holy, what is that? So I pull over at a gas station so I could watch this video. He's like, dude, we're going to be late, bro. I was like, dude, they'll cut you later. We'll get there. And I'm watching this video. And then, of course, I take it and I add some music to it and I kind of slow it down a little bit. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. And then I was like, well, what do we call him? And I guess you had told me your wife come up with MB.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I love that. MB. That's cool. Matt Beast, MB. I can do something with that. And, dude, I guess over time, we're working on getting that white shoe developed. And you started adding in these characters. And it was just a cool, like, branding thing. But then we got to a point where we had like the Power Rangers, right? Like we had like 5.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, it's time to do something here, but what do we do? And you remember for months we talked and it's like, is this a video game? Is this a cartoon? Like, what are we? And then I don't remember specifically, was it me, you? I don't know. One of us come up with the idea of a card game.
Yeah, I think it was. I think you probably sort of formulated to more of a card game. I told him. I mean, I know we'd always been talking about trying to do some kind of game, and but figuring out ways of what would be the best way. I'm not like personally like I'm real big into like I love collecting. Like I love. I used to collect a lot of trading cards, but I collect more comic books now. But even then, I think we were talking about like Pokemon and, you know, other things like that, and figuring out like how do we use that as or create a wrestling game around that. So I think you start probably formulating a little bit better as far as like how you wanted to like understanding the gameplay and how you wanted to actually play it, and then really just doing some test runs on it until we get it to where it actually works.
Dude, the worst part was the beginning because, and I probably told you the story. I'm not sure if I have, but me and Zach, my younger son, were sitting in the floor in here in the kitchen, and I had copy paper cut up and had takedown, you know, escape, reversal, you know, and it played, but it didn't play right, and I was kind of mad. And then I was trying to add rules where it was like period 1, period 2, period 3. And I'm like, nah, dude, that's just not fast. It takes too long to play. I don't like that. And then Billy Hamilton come over to stay the night. And, you know, Billy and Bryson are buddies, right? And Billy come over and he walks in. I don't know why I remember this, but he walks into the kitchen. He grabs a thing of Pringles and he's like chewing on these Pringles. And he's like, I'm like, dude, I can't figure out how to get from takedown to near fall. It's a 1v1. We're going back and forth. And that's where the momentum card came from. But he called it a skip card. And he says, dude, he goes, you need a skip card. I was like, a skip card? I was like, skip sounds stupid, though. So I didn't know what to call it. And then I text you that. Remember that? I texted you. I was like, dude, we need a skip card. I figured out how to link this now. And you're like, oh, yeah, let's call it. What about momentum? I was like, dude, that's awesome. That's it. That's the word. And then so then it kind of linked it together because that was like the piece. Once we kind of the original concept was so complicated because you're trying to cover, you know, period 1 and you're trying to time it, and period 2 and you're trying to. It wasn't feasible, right?
Yeah.
The only way I feel like that would be feasible is in like a board game concept, and you know your whole family's sitting around and you're going to sit there for 3 or 4 hours. But I doubt anybody's going to do that. And you want something quick, fast-paced, you can play. And even a dual match with the game, it literally you could do in, you know, 30 minutes, you know, something like that, 20, 30 minutes. So that was kind of the concept. So once we kind of got the fluff out of it and we figured out how to link the takedown momentum, near fall, or, you know, reversal, you know, whatever to play near fall points, then the trouble became how many of each card do we need? Then that was the problem. So we did it like time after time after time. And finally I was like, okay, what are the basis of what we absolutely have to have? And then I figured out that we're going to put 55 cards in it. So how do we divvy it? And dude, it kind of worked out perfect with the 999 model. Mm-hmm. And with having the wild cards, I haven't had a game yet where I didn't have one takedown card, right? So it automatically, it played out right. But in the instance, I take that back. We had one game, me and Bryson, and we didn't shuffle them real well. So key to everybody playing Mat Class, shuffle the card deck.
Yeah.
We didn't shuffle it real well because we were doing this was like episode 2 of the podcast when we first started this whole podcast. And neither one of us had a takedown in neutral, right? And we were pulling our 2 cards and we still didn't pull one. So we played Stalin to pull another one. Then he played a Stalin card to pull another one. And then I played, it was like, dude, he's up 2-1. And then finally I drew a takedown and then it got the match started. So it was really unique. But playing all these hands, once we got all the fluff out of it and it was leveled out and simplified, that's when I felt like, okay, we have a feasible product here that is really cool and unique for the wrestling community that doesn't exist. And that's when we were at the time with Wave 1, we had 5 characters, right? MB, Natty, Hammer, JV, and Scrap.
Yeah.
And I think that was the perfect launching point for the Wave 1 set. And now that we have Wave 2 out there now and it's there and we've added in these other characters, I think that what people don't realize yet is that this is a never-ending game. We're going to keep building it. It's going to keep getting better and better and better. And I'm just so excited about it, man. But when I finally got the gameplay down, I'm like, hey, man, I can draw a stick figure. So, dude, make it look however you think, right? And then you came back and you had sent me like I want to say like a near fall card or something. And it had like scrap on it. I was like, dude, that's pretty cool with the green and the blue. And I was like, I like that. That looks good.
Yeah.
And then you look at the back where you added in that like the lightning, right? Like it gave it like this kind of cool, feel, kind of like what's in the background right here with me. It's on the back of the card. And he made that too, by the way. Anybody watching? But anyway, dude, like I think like from me putting the time in to try to make it playable, which we did, it just took a lot of time.
Yeah.
And most people, I have one day I'll pull it out and I'll even share it. I'll print it out and go over it. I have the original rule set I built for Matt Clash. I'm still on a Word doc that's talking about period 1, period 2, period 3. And we tried that out. And it took like 10 minutes to like get set up to play. And I'm like, this is not, no way. And so once we got it playable, and, this has been a really cool year. Well, 24 was a really cool year. We were selling our average couple sets here and there through the week or whatever. And then Christmas came. And boom. And it was like, okay, this is cool. And what's really great is when you start getting the emails from people that are telling you, hey, my son loves this or my daughter loves this. Or you're getting tagged in videos of them playing. And, dude, we've really created something here together that is going to stand the test of time because we're going to keep building it. And whoever ordered, wave 1, wave 2, these early waves are really going to wish they had if they hadn't, because moving forward, like, 3 years from now, we're going to be in wave whatever the hell we're at that point.
Yeah.
And they're going to I wish I had that feet to back card. And that's what we're trying to build, right? This secondary market. And with the Tyrant thing, with them selling them at Tyrant tournaments now, and, we had a conversation, a short one I told you off camera with AAU. We'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've really created our own niche with this Bmoney Beastin brand that is kind of our own thing. Everybody does gear packages. Everybody does, shoes and headgear or whatever, gear bags. We're doing something nobody else has ever even tried. People's tried these video games or whatever, and I've played a couple of these like little computer games, and they're cool, but they're, this is something that's interpersonal. You're getting kids off of technology. They're communicating, they're trading, they're being interactive. And even for like little guys, it can quickly bring them up to speed on the rules of folk style wrestling. So there's so many like avenues that this can be used for. And dude, I'm just so proud of it. I want to hear your side, what you think, and your side of all this. So that's how I got there. So tell me your side of it.
No, I mean, I think my biggest thing when we had sort of devised, hey, like it's going to be a, some kind of trading card game. I'd say really the biggest thing was just the gameplay of it. I mean, I think once we found something that worked, that was wrestling based, that worked, I think well, there's actually other instances where I knew like we had something going, but once we got the actual gameplay, it was just how to best design the cards. I know even with the characters, I guess I see them so much, but even with those, coming from my sort of design and / comic book, sort of background, I wanted like me personally, like I wanted like some little wrestling based, superheroes or something like that, or characters. And I feel like that's something that I think really no one's doing. How do we create sort of unique characters that I think people could relate to? And I think the more we we put those out and we build content around them and stories, I think more and more a lot of these kids would start to get they start to gravitate towards certain characters. But that's my biggest thing. I mean, I told Jesse, like my biggest inspiration for these characters was like, I'm a big 80s fan, so like I love the Thundercats. That's like one of my favorite cartoons. That was my inspiration behind a lot of these characters, sort of having those sort of bestial type qualities. So that was the inspiration behind it. Yeah, even with and these are just the universe characters. These don't even include like the branded custom characters. And for
You know, JV is my screensaver, by the way.
Oh Lord.
I just want to throw that out there. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Yeah, no, I think just creating a whole like universe of characters that we can build off of. I think for me, coming from my sort of branding design background, like I always see these as like, hey, maybe a company would want to use one of these characters to sort of endorse some wrestling match or endorse a certain supplement beverage. Like you can perhaps partner up with us to license one of these characters, especially if you know the bigger following that these characters get. But yeah, that's just the way the way my mind works. But I definitely see this as definitely a ever expanding universe of characters. Yeah, even in that, like I said, I know even in that backdrop, we don't have Savage in there, so it's all kinds of like little characters that we're starting to put in now. Even now, I'm always thinking about like new characters. It's just deciding if I'm going to actually create it or not. Um, but I think that's what makes it fun. So on my end, I think when people sort of see it, I know I actually had one of the coaches and wrestlers. I showed them how to do the gameplay, and they texted me at 1 o'clock in the morning, still playing, asking questions. So I think that's like those are things like, man, I was like, okay, we really got something here. Even when we did doing the testing of them, and I played it with someone that had no clue about wrestling, and he liked the game. So I knew, I was like, okay, if he likes it and he don't even associate with the sport of wrestling, I knew we had something. And that's what I like to see is like, can I get someone outside of the sport of wrestling still interested in these cards? And I think that's where I know, okay, we really got something here. Obviously, when you get sales, you got you definitely got a product that it works. Those are sales and stuff coming in, and people are loving the characters and the gameplay, and it still helps a lot of kids, even older kids, learn the sport of wrestling, and it's something that keeps them engaged. So yeah, I think there's all kinds of things that we can do for it, but yeah, definitely you got to start from somewhere. That's that's the biggest thing is we can always talk about certain ideals, but actually executing on ideals and bringing it to life, that's something else entirely. But it's always cool. I mean, I got all these characters on my on my iPad, and sort of see all of them sort of just fleshed out. It's always cool.
Dude, you text me the night I texted you. I said, "Hey, dude, orders placed. Wave 2's coming." And you sent me, "Congratulations, dude, we did it." And I was like, "Yep, yeah, we did." And I was like, "We ain't done yet." One thing we didn't touch on, and I told this to Ham, to Coach Ham, when we had our interview. Dude, I remember we had this concept, and we knew we were going to put like the three at the time. I guess we only had the 3 characters, maybe 4. I think it was right before you built JV, so I think we had 4. It was in that little time period, and we had this card concept, and we were building on it, but we had no idea what to call it. All right, and you remember we had like this handful of names, and I told Ham, I said, I put it on a Facebook poll, and I said, dude, I don't even remember the other 4 because they must have been so bad because we got 100% on Matt Clash. and I remember thinking, dude, the other names must have really sucked. I don't even remember them because, dude, like we got 100% on Matt Clash.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I guess that's it. And then I still got the original Matt Clash logo that I don't even know if we ever posted it before we went with the red and green for like the idea, like, and you brought that up. I didn't even think of that. Of like, the red and green band as you're going to the, the center of the mat. And I remember like it has become something that is just evolving. I guess that's the best way to put it. Like this thing is ever changing and evolving. And it can't be really, I mean, I don't think there's there's no stopping point. Like it's just so unique that we can just keep adding and tweaking, and it's just going to get better and better and better. Plus, the collectability factor is long-term collectability factors really is what's really cool about it. Because like when you merge the two waves now, you got base cards left over, right? So with the leftover base cards, you're going to start seeing kids put them in binders and stuff like that, right? And then, they'll have their set they play with, and then they'll have the leftovers and things. Oh, what you got the Maloney takedown card? I'll trade you 2 of these for that. Shout out Chris Maloney. And so I think that's kind of the cool route that we're going down with this game, is that it's just ever evolving. And that's something that most games, like even like Monopoly or, whatever, it's kind of stationary, right? What's cool about about Mac Clash, is that it's not stationary. We're going to keep building on it. Like, dude, the shadow character, that card by itself adds such a cool dynamic to the game. I played a hand the other day when I merged the waves, right? And dude got thrown down a takedown. I threw down that clone card, and then I threw down a momentum and a near fall. So I stole it and got near fall points. So I'm like, dude, that's a big swing in my direction. It went from getting taken down, giving up 3, to being on top and getting 7 points. So it's like, dude, that's really cool. And that's just one specialty card out of, probably the 80 or 90 we have on a Word document right now that will eventually be in the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes this the most kind of unique thing, is that it's evolving and it's going to continuously evolve. And I'm really excited about what the future holds. We really have, bro, we have kind of carved out a niche that is unique, and it's so cool. Every time I see videos of kids playing it and, they're digging it, I'm like, man, this is so cool. And I'm really proud of it.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. I think it's one of those where it appeals to, I know specifically with even the kid that I was letting play the cards. He's a big sort of nerd. He loves like Dragon Ball and stuff like that. So we always chat all the time, but he was a big Pokemon card collector. So I think with him being a wrestler and finding cards that he can collect and it still connects with wrestling, that's a no-brainer for him. That's something that like he would love to do. So when you see these kids like, collecting them and picking them up and like seeing which, what cards are in the deck, I think from a collectability standpoint, being able to say, hey, look, I got this first wave, feet the back card. It's cool. I know even with my little nephew, every release of a new wave, I pretty much send him I send him one pack from open up, but the other one I just tell him, hey, just keep it unopened. So I was like, I want you to have each wave unopened sets. And it's like, you just never know, if this thing blows up, whoever's got these unopened sets or got weird little variant cards or even a misprint card or something like that. Those things could, you just never know. So I think that's the fun thing, is seeing how, we can use these characters, and, we're building out a little universe and who knows, like I said, I know when I get into my, aside from my client work and everything else that I work with, I usually get in those spurts where like, hey, let me just work on a new character. And especially if I got it sort of on my brain, I'll just go ahead and just do it. But that's what makes it fun, like, hey, I just put out a new character and add them in, or add that girl in, or so it's always I think that's always the cool thing, that we can pretty much make really our own little rules and allow people to sort of deep dive into this little universe that's Mac Clash, and we're still promoting the sport of wrestling, which, that's what I care about.
Yeah. And dude, and I text you a picture of a Word document. I've literally sat in the past couple days, like when I had some spare time, and I've been building out MB telling the story of how each character is connected. So that's something I want to start piecing together, like, and I'm not going to spoil it on here because I really want it to be enjoyed when they see it. But like, I'm writing this out as from his perspective of what happened in this, like, I met this guy, and this guy was connected to this guy, and how it all kind of came together. And I think that when we start feeding out a complete backstory, I mean, I think it's super cool that on the website they have like a little mini bio. But I think when we start giving like a true backstory of Bmoney Beastin and how Matt Clash become a thing, and how Coach Cutter came along, and how JB went on a 47 match losing streak, right? Like the whole concept as one, I think that's when certain kids are going to gravitate, and so not just kids, but everybody are going to gravitate to certain characters. And like there's a kid, I swear, when you made JV, you didn't even know this kid. But there's a kid that goes to Ringgold. He's an 8th grader that looks just like that kid. Wow. Looks just like JV. And little Kaysen. And he's so small that his singlet was a little loose, right? And I remember thinking when you sent me that, I was like, dude, that's Kaysen. And so you're going to have kids that are small like him that maybe gravitate to JV, and you're going to have like, bigger kids are going to gravitate to like Hammer, and you're going to have like girls that are be like, dude, I love the blue. We may even get to a point where we start seeing little girls running around youth tournaments with blue dye in their hair. So we're kind of, as we're building this process, I think this storyboard that eventually we'll start putting out in spurts, I think will start gravitating people in, and they'll gravitate to their favorite, right? Whoever that is. Yeah. And like for me, MB's my guy. That's the beginning. He's always going to be my favorite. Even though, dude, I love Scrap. Scrap's like my second right there. And then the Zane is going to be really unique when I figure out what card to put him on. Right. When wave 3, I've been thinking on that too. Like, what could I do because like his backstory is really cool. So like I got some my wheels are turning on that, right, for a specialty card for wave 3. So, but dude, like without you, man, I couldn't have done it. And dude, I think we have built something really special here. And I just think it was really cool to be able to tell everybody, like, you don't see all this, but in the background, we're always kind of doing something to try to make this better for the wrestling community.
Yeah. Man, it's just one of those where you keep it growing, see what works. I mean, I know I always have my hands in different things, but aside from growing Langford Design and the Langford Studio and everything, it's it's always just one of those where I'm having to balance a lot of different things, but definitely would love to get to where I think Matt Clash is growing really quick, but I would love to get it to where like, hey, these some of these bigger brands are wanting to use some of these characters, or even businesses outside of wrestling start to see these characters. So it's always cool and just sort of seeing how that evolution unfolds. But I think for me, this is something that I do every day. I mean, I'm always in wrestling in some form, either training or coaching, or either working with Matt Clash, working with clients. I'm always in wrestling. So I think all this is just a little sort of just expression of my everyday life. But that's what keeps it interesting, keeps it fun.
Absolutely, man. Dude, I love you, bro. To wrap this up, I want you to just tell everybody how they can follow you, which, anything you see, I want to throw this out first. PSA here. I am no graphic artist, okay? I'm not. Now, I can kind of tweak things and put things in place, but I can't draw that. So anything I post, this man created it. So I want to make that a PSA first. But how can they follow you? How can, about like maybe rebranding their team, whatever it may be, throw that out to close this episode.
Best way to reach out to me is website langforddesign.com, LANGFORDESIGN.com. If you want to email me at info@langforddesign, 1D, no S at the end. So info@langforddesign.com. Or if you want to reach out to me for, maybe for, it could probably best way on Instagram is at Quantal Langford. all combined. So you can reach out to me, even if you want to inquire about rebranding or team wear or any of that stuff, or even like I said, I still do a lot of clinics and speaking engagements too. So if you want to reach out to me about that, let's connect. I love promoting the sport of wrestling, and I love creativity. So I think all these are just it's all a mix. It's all, for me, it's all practice. That's all it is. But those are the best ways to reach out for me. Reach out to me if you're interested. So generally, right now, January is always sort of quiet, but right now I'm finishing up some big projects that I'm waiting to release. So I can't wait for that. But if you want to reach out to me, go ahead and hit me up now, because I've already got people already connecting with me with projects. So if you're interested in rebranding or doing some consulting or even seeing if it's worth it, let's connect, and I'll be sure to help you out. Anything that you see with Cleveland wrestling, Walker Valley, I've done most of that stuff. A lot of the mascots, a lot of the T-shirt designs, all the Made in Cleveland stuff. I generally design all that. So if you're happen to see it, that's me. A lot of the stuff for all the stuff for Walker Valley, all the stuff for Hicks and Ocoee Middle. A lot of things that you normally see. I'm the one that's probably created that. But I can't wait to release the next school that'll be releasing their stuff this in the next month. It'll be cool. So I got something special for that. But that's how you reach out to me.
Right on. These are the two guys behind the curtain of Mat Clash. Episode 39 of the Bmoney Beastin podcast, with Quantal Langford and myself, Jesse Drennan. Bmoney Beastin in the books.